It's February 4th, 2015, and I took a few days off from the last video clips that I made because I had so many things to do, and I just had the baby, and I was having to spend an entire day out of town, and so anyway, it felt good to have a couple of days off before getting into this again. And I think what I might talk about, what I'm going to talk about next, is the, after Josh Gatov, which I've already described, and what happened with him. A year later, it was pretty much just a year, 1 year later. And so, when that happened with Josh, as I said, nothing had happened to me like that for a very long time. So I was really stunned. I was in a lot of shock. I would say I was in shock for like 3 months. I mean, I was kind of in a daze. I still kept all of my classes and did the best I could, and I did well, but it was a concerted effort to do that because I was still working at that same center that he worked at. He would come in, and every time he came in, I'd have a panic attack. And I actually had to quit my job there because of it. So when I quit my job and I didn't have to run into him inadvertently, things got better for me emotionally. It was just less stress. And I took another job at the college as a director of student activities at the time, which was a big job, and it was fun. I missed some of the international students, but there were a few international people who worked in this other position with me as well, and I learned a little more about how colleges run, and not that much. I don't know very much about it, but it was a really nice opportunity to have, actually, and I probably could have made even more out of it, but I did the best I could. And did that instead of working as a tutor for foreign language students. So that is actually how I transitioned out of my out of one job at Portland Community College on the Sylvania campus to another position. And honestly, I wouldn't have quit my job at all. I would have stayed in the exact same place that I had been if I had not been having the panic attacks. And I went to their disability offices regarding migraines because I knew there was something up with migraines. I knew that it wasn't stress. I mean, I have been under various times in my life really high levels of stress. And I'm pretty in tune with my body and how I respond to stressors. And having migraines is not something that I just have. I don't, that's not something that I naturally have. Panic attacks, I believe they are natural in origin. I mean, obviously I have some post-traumatic stress associated with that, or it's from immediate stress maybe, from actual stressful things that happened that could happen to anyone, which anyone would have a response to. But I would definitely say that the panic attacks have been natural in origin and how they have arisen and why and that kind of thing. The migraines, on the other hand, I know for a fact are not something that I just have as a response to stress. It is something that I've had the government experimenting on with me to keep me down for a really long time, and they've done it at different times in my life and had different people observing me while it was happening and being done, so they knew exactly how much it affected me. And they began to use it as a tool to, affect me if I went to court, if I started saying things they didn't like. It's just one of the tools in their kit for how they would try to repress me or punish me if I started talking too much about what they did. And so anyway, that I really did suffer from what happened. You know, I had a very strange response and reaction. You know, most women would not stay with their abuser and pretend that, you know, they liked them and go on to having sex with them more. I don't think most women probably do that, although I had someone tell me that it happens more often than people think, which is sort of surprising to me. But again, when I got so mixed up with my conservative religious ideas at the time, and that combined with the government basically conditioning me to pretend all the time as if, you know, everybody's just always friends, that really factored into everything. And then once I was away from it, you know, I had a normal stress reaction to all of it for a really long time. And I did actually, for the first time in my life, and pretty much the only time, well, no, not the only time. There have been a couple other times that I've actually looked for counseling, maybe a couple of other times. And what's strange is in these other times that I looked for counseling, it was always connected to federal government offices, the counseling was, and I was getting turned away from them. And I used to think, this is just so strange. I mean, this is counseling that's supposed to be free. It was like a sliding scale or free, and it was kind of the government services type of a deal. And I thought, how come these federal offices for counseling or whatever that get all this federal money, why are they paranoid about having me talk and having to write documents about, you know, about my counseling, what I'm discussing? And what I came to conclude was that the government did not want any documentation about what I was, you know, complaining about. And I think partly is because later when I learned more about law and legal and lawsuits and that kind of thing, lawyers and law firms, when they are estimating how much their client should receive for damages, they start looking, they specifically sometimes look for evidence of damages. You know, like this person was this way at one time. And then, you know, you can see that after these different events occurred, now this person is this other way, and you can see that they have suffered, they've had some pain and suffering, obviously, and so then someone might say, well, how do you know, obviously? And then the lawyer would say, well, it is a fact that they went to counseling, and the counselor says they cried, you know, that kind of thing. Or it is a fact, sometimes they even bring in like medications. It's a fact that they were on antidepressants because they were so depressed they really felt they couldn't cope anymore on their own, so they wanted to try some medications to help them through this hard time. And you know, to me, I just thought, you know, if someone has pain and suffering, just take their word for it. But what I learned was that that testimony does go a long way in court. You know, saying how you felt and what happened, and most people kind of being able to say, yeah, anyone under those circumstances would feel that way. That can be a form of evidence. But lawyers also like to have things that are sort of tangible and concrete, such as counseling records. You know, counseling records that show, okay, she was feeling so bad off that she went to a counselor. You know, or medications. She wasn't on medications over here, you know, before these events, she was not on any medications, and after these events, she was on medications, she was getting counseling, you know, she was traumatized. So lawyers like that kind of evidence because in the legal field, they have what you call, you know, and I don't really know that much, and I've forgotten some things, even though I've done a little bit of legal stuff pro se. But they have what you call, I remember the first time, and I don't think I remember the next one, actual damages, and then there's actual damages, general damages, and then punitive damages. And all of those things factor into how much should this person, should the jury award this person some money, how much money. And for actual damages, when they estimate what the actual damages are, those are things such as, okay, how much money was spent for counseling. And so they actually look up the bills. And how much money was spent for the medications. And how many days' work did so-and-so lose, and then they count and add that up. All of those things that involve tangible money figures go towards actual damages. And then general damages, I believe, if I've got that right about the general damages term for this. General damages kind of cover everything, like the person's testimony about pain and suffering. People believe that there has been pain and suffering. It's reasonably estimated or expected that there would have been under those conditions. The suffering of the family members or people that love this person. All of those things kind of fall under general damages. Things that maybe are not tangible but are can be reasonably concluded. Then you have punitive damages. Punitive damages are a way to say, well, it's not exactly actual damages and it's not general damages, but what we want to do is we want to make these people who harmed this person pay, and we want to punish them for what they did. And so even though Mr. and Ms. So-and-so may not have suffered at the level of cost as we are including with the punitive damages, we believe that this case is so important that we should include punitive damages, and because these people seem to be so concerned with money, we need to hit them where it hurts, which is their belt, their belt, just below the belt, actually, which is their pocketbook or their money belt, and my dog thinks I'm playing. Good girl. It's a good dog. She's saying hi. So, so anyway, the punitive damages basically go towards punishing corporations most often, but also individuals in certain circumstances. And in civil cases, there can be punitive damages. In criminal cases, I'm not sure that there's such a thing as punitive damages. That might be more of a civil case type of a thing. However, could be true for criminal cases, because I do know for racketeering and criminal, whatever it is, obstruction, those cases, the RICO cases, RICO, for those cases, which involve conspiracy between two or more persons to commit a series of crimes that cross over state lines in some form or fashion. In those kinds of cases, they have a rule of thumb that should anyone win a RICO case, there is automatically a treble award for punitive damages, which means whatever the actual and general damages were, you can times that by 3, and that's how much this case is worth. And that applies to RICO cases. And actually, they are criminal cases that can even be brought by citizens and law firms. Obviously, it's not done very often because they're huge kinds of cases, but it's possible to do. So, anyway, didn't really expect this one video clip to be so much about court proceedings and effects of trauma, but I think it's relevant probably to everything that's being discussed, because it would show why the federal government didn't want me to have counseling, which is kind of ironic, but they didn't want to have me documenting things that they'd done.